Alright, give me just a minute. I'm gonna send out some messages. Just to let folks know what's going on. So that maybe we can get some folks in here. Because it's fun to have people to talk to. Also, OpenAI is being a little bit cranky right now. I imagine there's probably a lot of people on it. So we will just have to sorry. Just have to make sure we're keeping everything refreshed. Okay. I think that is all the messages I wanted to send out, so let's get back to it. Just like yesterday, I'd like to start with a little bit of the conversation um, because once I start getting into the world building, my brain gets pretty focused on that, and I'm not going to really be able to talk about anything else. Especially as we start learning more and more things about the AI assistant, um, just gets really, really interesting, and I get really excited, and then everything else goes out of my brain. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the ethics related to the monetization model that they are proposing, which if you haven't seen their like sign up to be informed form, it asks you a little bit about what you might be willing to pay every month, what you think is too expensive, what you think is maybe so cheap that you would think that the product wasn't worth very much, and where kind of your sweet spot is. Ultimately, they're trying to feel out how much people are willing to pay every month to continue to have access to the model. Now, originally, and when I filled out the form, I was pretty much 100% on board with the model costing even as much as, say, like $15 a month. But in preparation for going live with this stream, I started to think, about what I would say. I had that conversation in my head. And as I started to do that, it started to change my mind. And the way it's changing my mind is that, like a lot of computer technologies, this AI assistant is very specifically going to help increase the profits of corporations. It has very little use outside of a novelty for just at home use. You can ask it things, you can learn things, but a lot of that learning is going to be done specifically with your job or maybe a job you plan on moving to in mind. Um, when you get it to write things for you, most of the things it's going to write for you are going to be things like memos for work, emails for work, information that you're trying to get out about products for work. Even if you work for yourself, maybe you're a content creator on YouTube, something like that. You do a lot of TikToks, you have it writing scripts or something for you. That information is primarily going to be helping YouTube, right? Because you go on there, you post your videos, they pull in a lot of ad revenue, considerably more than what their average user is going to be making, right? No, unless you're Mr. Beast, you're not walking away with millions of dollars every year. You're maybe making a living. You're putting out a lot of content. You're bringing a lot of value to their website, um, and a lot of what you gain from your increased productivity through an AI assistant like ChatGPT is just going to be increasing their profits, and it's going to be at your expense because you're the one who's paying for the monthly access to the model. So I think we have to really start considering who is ultimately benefiting, even from the personal use of systems like this. And it's something we should have been talking about and should have been considering for a very long time. I mean, access to the internet, things like word processing programs, um, things like Excel, and a bunch of different programs like that. For a long time, people have been paying for those things for their own personal use, and a lot of times their personal use is very much work related. And so their job is getting away with getting a lot of extra value from their ability to continue doing their job at home without any initial cost whatsoever from that company. And so I'm a little bit concerned that this technology is going to kind of go the same way. People are going to start paying this monthly subscription, and then they're going to be going to work and logging into their personal accounts specifically to do a job and to benefit the productivity that they're doing for that job and to ultimately provide additional profit to their workplace. Now, I'm absolutely not opposed to people using a system like ChatGPT for work. I think it's great. I think a lot of people have seen an insane boom in productivity, and it's been really, really exciting. But we need to consider who ultimately is benefiting from that. And then the other ethical concern I have about the proposed monetization model is the gap that it is going to create in knowledge, in potential, in um, what's the word I'm looking for? In the ability for people to compete. There we go. The word is compete. In the ability for people to compete who maybe don't have access to the model and so have been unable to train themselves on how to use it. Those people are not going to be able to compete in the job market, and they are going to be people who have already been disadvantaged, right? When you put a paywall on a system like this that is ultimately going to be so essential to so many jobs, then you're just broadening that gap of potential and opportunity. And I think that is, especially in a situation with something like this AI assistant that has the potential to double or even triple an individual's productivity. If you don't have the ability to train with it, if you don't have the ability to access and learn, then that disadvantage is just going to compound over time and really broaden the gap between people who are already significantly privileged versus people who are already significantly disadvantaged. And so I think it's time, as a global community, we're going to have to step in and ensure that everyone has access to systems like this. It's going to be great for creativity, right? So many people are going to be able to do so much more with their hobbies. They're going to be able to iterate on thoughts that they're having. Creativity is going to go through the roof, right? It has really helped me with world building in that I can see what's happening with my world as I'm thinking about it and get something written down on paper. Even though I'm not technically typing it out, it's just so much faster to go from what's rattling around in my head to what's now on the screen. That it's really helped me focus, and I think we're going to see a lot of that in both creative and technical spaces because of the model. And again, anybody that we leave behind is going to fall behind extremely, extremely quickly because of the overbearing potential of the model to accent and improve what is already there so much, right? If you're a creative person, this is going to help you be more creative. If you're a technical person, this is going to help you be more productive, writing code, editing code, coming up with ideas for things that you need to make in your code. Right? Every time you ask ChatGPT a question, it starts spitting questions back at you. Well, did you think about this? What about this? Here's some additional things you might want to consider. And so we cannot leave not just people in our own countries behind, but countries that have in the past had their development stunted by the machinations of more developed countries. We are now potentially putting them at an even greater disadvantage, and that disadvantage is going to grow exponentially as these resources start becoming available to us before them. And so we need to do what we can now to prevent that from happening. And so I'm very concerned about the monetization model for those reasons. I would like to see governments and large corporations step up to assist in the funding without expectation of control and interest in the company, because they're already going to get an incredible return on their investment. Every every single time that OpenAI makes an advancement with these models, makes them more factually accurate, makes them more technically knowledgeable, gives them the ability to extrapolate more information and combine more information, and ultimately, when they get the ability to get it online and allow it to fact check itself and allow it to update itself and maintain current with new information, corporations and governments are at the forefront of who benefits from that in all fields. There's there's nothing, not even construction, right? They've talked about its knowledge of materials and its knowledge of um, gosh, something I was reading. I'm really into the Reddit for ChatGPT, but something I was reading is that they talked about modeling a new type of air conditioner, and it knew thermal potentials of different materials and helped a person who knew nothing about heating and cooling basically create an air conditioner. And so that's a sort of obscure seeming um, it's an obscure seeming place to think that an AI model like this might help. We already think of Stable Diffusion and Midjourney and talking about art. We already think of ChatGPT and creative writing and coding. But outside of that, it optimizes a lot of different things. And so all of those companies, all of those fields are going to be benefiting exponentially over anything that they could ever possibly put forward money wise. And so I don't see any reason that our governments and large corporations can't fund OpenAI's continued research into improving the model, knowing that pretty much every use for the model is going to continue to benefit them in increased productivity and increased profits from each and every one of their employees who have access to the model. So I think asking individuals to pay a monthly fee for the service is ultimately going to be a great detriment, ultimately going to drastically increase the opportunity gap between people who already have a considerable amount of privilege and people who are already um, disenfranchised, particularly lower income communities in more developed countries, but also entire countries that are less developed and have had their development stunted uh, by some of the world's superpowers. So I know I've said it like 3 or 4 times now, but it's something that has to be considered. It's something that has to be considered now, and it's something we have to do something about because this is going to become a staple resource for everyone doing anything very, very quickly. And so I'm just really hopeful that OpenAI makes that recognition, and B, that our economic and social leaders and political leaders make that association and start taking steps to ensure access to programs like this in the future for everyone. So with some of that out of the way, I'm of course always happy to continue that discussion. If anybody has any questions, concerns, insights of their own that they'd like to put up in the chat, we can continue that discussion. But in the meantime, I am going to continue with talking about some of the skills and continuing some of our world building that we started yesterday with our magic system here. Uh, so one of the things that happened yesterday is we started building a lot of spells. We created this sort of engine, and all we did was we created a series of rules for how our magic system was going to work, right? We're going to have this runic magic system, and the different runes are going to have different effects, combining those runes and speaking activation incantations is how you activate different spells that will be etched into pieces of clothing, inked onto your body, on weapons, whatever it is. You speak the activation incantation, activate the skill, but there is a physical strength cost to activating the spells. Some of them extremely heavy costs and require a lot of physical training in order to be able to cast. Some of them may be smaller costs. They're going to be more common spells, things that people will use to improve their everyday lives. Um, and so we generated this engine based on inputting these rules, which we did in a totally different chat, right? We created the rules over here, and this is going to be kind of where we create and do a lot of our world building. And then we just copy and pasted it over here, so this is just our magic chat. And that's a really important and powerful part of this world building system that we've got going on, is using different chats to generate information about different topics, and then getting the AI assistant to condense the rules and concepts that we've created for those different aspects of our world. And then we can take that and post it back in, because again, the assistant doesn't remember every single thing that you've told it in an individual chat. It eventually starts to forget. So the more information you can condense down, the more accurate you can keep the assistant to the world that you're trying to create. So we've started building up this engine. We did a couple of trial runs. Some things kind of didn't really work. We decided that we wanted to create the list of runes so that it was consistently using the same runes, because it actually went through a couple of existing rune sets, like Proto-Germanic runes and some other runic symbols that really do exist in the world. And because it was mixing and matching things, and because I'm not smart enough to know off the top of my head what some of those runes mean, even though they added a lot of flavor, I decided to just get it to generate 26 runes in American English for me. And these are the ones that it gave me. And then we started spitting out some spells. And we even got the AI to tell us some stories about the people who created some of these spells. And those stories were really, really interesting. I actually really enjoyed reading them. And so now we just have this ability to really deepen and enrich not only our understanding of the world that we're creating, but the understanding of, sorry, throat was getting a little dry there, but also we're enriching the understanding of the AI assistant to the world that we're creating, which is just going to help us better. So I do want to make some changes though to how it's creating these spells. Number one, I no longer like this low to high concept when it's talking about the power of the spell. I want to do 1 to 100. And the reason for that is I'd like to see a little more variation in the power levels. Um, and then also way back up here in our rules, we talked about activating runes has a strength cost associated with it, which reflects the amount of physical effort required to activate the rune and maintain the spell. The strength cost of the spell is the sum of the strength cost of all runes activated. We need to reword these two rules right here. And the reason is that the AI has been extremely good at balancing our spells. Right, so we've got a 3 runer here that has a relative strength requirement of high. But if we go back, we have astral projection as a 2 rune with a strength requirement of high. And I believe there was a single, portal jump, which just uses the space rune, has been given a relative strength of high. And that's great, except that it means that the AI is going to associate the space rune with a high strength requirement, which means it's going to use that space rune less. Actually, no, maybe it won't. Nope. Okay. I was totally wrong about that, because we are creating the spells next to each other, right? And they're not listed. So it's not learning from its previous response. We're having it generate new responses. So because we're doing that, it's actually not maintaining the power of the rune as a constant. It's recreating the power of the rune, and it's actually doing it, as far as I can tell, based on the overall power of the spell. And I've actually really, really liked how well it's balancing that. So we're going to change the potential power levels from 1 to 100. We're going to continue to have 1 to 5 runes because that's giving plenty of potential combinations, right? Out of the 26 runes, having 1 to 5 of them, and the system is doing a really good job of balancing that and keeping the runes that it chooses in mind when it creates the spell effect and when it creates the flavor text. It's been really, really good about that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the incantation for activation. The AI has gotten in the habit of saying with the power of, and then the runes, and then some little incantation of I call upon the stars to fall from the sky or something like that. But that incantation is extremely bad for something like Shadow Step, which you would expect to be a quick, low incantation spell, right? You would want to just use a single word like step or something like that, instead of with the power of the darkened space, I weave the shadows and disappear from sight, and then you move like 2 feet. You could have just walked that far. So we don't want that. We want better activation incantations. So we want the length of the activation incantation should from relate to the strength requirement getting longer as the requirement increases. Okay. I like that prompt a lot better. It didn't actually occur to me so much yesterday that there was a lot more that we could do inside of here. Especially if you just wanted to create a specific spell, you could give it a spell name. Or you could edit this prompt, give it a new spell name, and it would spit that out. And you could just keep doing that over and over if you wanted, if you had ideas for your own spell names. That would be 100% acceptable. So, yeah, let's save and submit and see what it spits out this time. Nature's Fury. Hmm. Ignis. Why did it give the Ignis rune name instead of fire? Hmm. I know why. It's because I still have. Hmm. Interesting. So it's still using this Ignis rune because we created this Fire Blade earlier before we created these 26 runes. Interesting. Okay. That's something I can manually change if we decided we wanted to use this particular spell. That's not a big deal. But at some point, we are going to have to sort of recreate the engine, right? It's gotten a little bit sloppy over time. And when that happens, we'll just go ahead and fix that. I haven't saved Ignis into the file that I'm keeping on Notion, so it won't be there when we recreate this. Inevitably, ChatGPT will do an update or something like that, and we'll lose all of our chats anyway. So we want to make sure we fix that at some point, but we can always fix it manually if we need to. So Nature's Fury is going to be the spell name. The American English rune name is Nature, Ignis, Air, and Thunder. So it's a 4 rune. I think that's the first 4 rune that we've actually gotten, and its relative strength requirement is going to be 90. So I'm really interested to see. Through the forces of nature, Ignis, air, and thunder, I unleash the fury of the elements. Let the storm rage and the earth shake. Nature's Fury Rise. So, giving it this activation incantation change and telling it to give us longer incantations has already proven to be very interesting. I'm really excited about that. I really want to see a really low rune number that's got really low power. I really want to see what it does with that later. So spell effect. This spell summons a devastating natural disaster such as a tornado, a storm, or an earthquake in the vicinity of the caster, causing heavy damage to the area and potentially injuring or killing those caught in its path. Flavor text. Nature's Fury is a spell of last resort, for it calls upon the raw power of the elements to wreak havoc upon the land. Only the most experienced and skilled rune masters dare to wield this spell, for its strength cost is high and the consequences can be dire. This is fantastic. I'm gonna get it to generate a story for me because we've been talking for about 30 minutes now and we haven't done any storytelling. And I like stories, so I'm gonna get this to tell me the story of the rune master who created this spell. I love doing this. This has absolutely been one of the most fun things for me since starting to use ChatGPT just like a week ago now. Is getting it to tell me these little stories about the world. It makes it so much more fun to build a world and to work on the world when every now and then you just get to take a little break and learn something cool without having to do it yourself. Okay, please tell me the story. Hmm. Let's refresh this page and see what happens. It's a little cranky sometimes, especially. Oh, it doesn't even save. Okay. Tell me the story of the rune master who created this spell. Give them a name that does not appear in popular literature. I started doing this, give it a name that does not appear in popular literature, because during some of my testing, when I first started working with the AI, I was creating some elven characters, and it kept giving me Lord of the Rings character names like Elrond and Galadriel, and it kept wanting to name things stuff that already existed, and I'd like to have some unique names. So here we go. Hey, all right. The story of the rune master who created the spell Nature's Fury is one of a powerful, ambitious, and brilliant mage named Tormag. Tormag was born in a remote village nestled in the mountains, where the harsh elements were a constant challenge for the villagers. Being exposed to the power of nature from a young age, Tormag became fascinated by its might and resilience. As he grew older, he began to study the ancient art of rune magic and quickly became one of the most skilled rune masters in his village. Tormag was a natural leader and visionary. He believed that the power of the runes should be harnessed to protect and aid the people of his village. He wanted to use his skills to improve their lives. However, his ambitious goals were met with resistance from the more traditional and conservative members of the community. They saw the use of rune magic as a dangerous practice and feared that Tormag's experiments, would lead to disastrous consequences. Determined to prove them wrong, Tormag set out to create the most powerful spell that any rune master had ever conceived. He studied the ancient texts and spent years experimenting with various combinations of runes. He finally stumbled upon a powerful combination of the nature, ignis, air, and thunder runes. He spent months perfecting the incantation and testing the spell in controlled environments. The spell was a masterpiece, and it was named Nature's Fury. Tormag's spell was able to summon a devastating natural disaster such as a tornado, or storm, or an earthquake, and could be used to protect the village from outside threats. The spell was so powerful that it could level entire towns and kill large numbers of people, so he also put in place strict rules and protocols for its use. Tormag's achievement was finally recognized by the villagers, and his position as a leader was solidified. He became known as the creator of the powerful spell Nature's Fury, and was respected throughout the land for his contributions to the magical community. He used the spell sparingly and mostly for defensive purposes, but his reputation and the spell itself made him a powerful force in the region, feared by many. Tormag went on to become a mentor and advisor to many young rune masters, passing on his knowledge and wisdom to future generations. His legacy lived on long after his death, and his spell Nature's Fury remains one of the most powerful and feared spells in the world to this day. This is actually the longest story that it's created for us so far in regards to the creation of a spell, and it was extremely dynamic. There's not a ton of information here to inform the story, right? We've got some basic rules about how magic works. We haven't done a ton of world building about the cultures in the fantasy world yet. Just yesterday, we just started doing magic, and I've kind of just gotten stuck on magic because there's so much potential with the system, and I'm having so much fun creating these spells and then reading these stories that I've kind of lost sight of the bigger picture. But with little overall prompting, you're seeing that you're getting these extremely dynamic stories out of the system. And again, that's just going to inform your knowledge of your world as you create it. It's going to, I mean, now, for example, because of this story, I have a character that I need to make, right? Tormag. Um, I have a village that needs to be made where he lived, but also a culture of people who previously were conservative in their use of magic. And so maybe only used a very small number of spells to assist them in their farming or animal husbandry or something like that, and ultimately shied away from some of the more powerful magics that Tormag obviously leaned into. And and so now we have this potential for a culture that in a world that is extremely magic heavy and magic forward, maybe we have a culture of people who lived in he said that they lived in a remote village, right? So these people are a little bit separated from the society and are going to be a little more conservative. And so that's interesting, a new bit of information about our world that we didn't have previously and that can be incorporated into a lot more of our world in the future. So now we're going to go back up, and just like we have been doing, we're going to be able to get it to just regenerate its response. How did I do that previously? Maybe if I hit edit and don't actually edit anything, it sticks. So, no, strange. I did something yesterday that I don't understand exactly, and I'll have to figure it out. Alright, so we have a new spell here. Our spell name is Tempest. Uses the air, thunder, and water runes. It's going to be a 3 rune spell. Relative strength required is 70. Incantation for activation. This one is going to be significantly smaller. Like we told it, we want the length of our activation incantations to be shortened based on the strength requirement of the skill. So this incantation is going to be with the power of wind, the thunder, and the sea. I call upon the forces of nature to unleash a tempest upon my foes. Creates a powerful storm, causing heavy winds and rains, and unleashing bolts of lightning on the enemies. So this is actually the second time it's given us a skill about creating a storm, particularly a storm that involves lightning. In the flavor text here, the Tempest spell is feared by enemies as it calls upon the raw power of the elements to devastate those who stand in the way of the caster. The incantation for this spell is long and requires a significant amount of strength, making it difficult for all but the most skilled rune masters to master. Okay. Um, this is a pretty basic spell, and it's not showing me what I want, except that we're still doing this prefix here for all of our incantations of activation. We've got with the power of and the runes. And again, if it does that with a really low powered skill that we would normally want a single word activation incantation for, then we're going to have to change something up here that will reduce or take that out, right? We can always just say don't include with the power of, and it'll absolutely do that. Or maybe we can tell it, make any skills with strength between 1 and 10 only one word activations. Giving it very specific instructions like that will get you good results. So let's regenerate the response and see what we get next time. Nature's Shield, another shield spell. Strength required is 60. I like how it's being dynamic with what it's doing, but it is operating only in tens, which I mean gives it 10 different ranges, which isn't it's not terrible, but I would maybe like to see all 100 numbers get used in there. All right, the incantation for activation is actually really, really long on this one. That's interesting. With the power of earth, water, and nature, I call upon the forces of the land to protect me. Let the soil be my armor, the water my shield, and the wilderness my watchful guardian. Hear my plea, O elemental forces, and grant me the strength to defend against all harm. Spell effect here is the spell creates a barrier of natural elements around the caster, absorbing and deflecting incoming attacks and protecting them from physical harm. Flavor text: Nature's Shield is a powerful spell that harnesses the power of the earth, water, and wilderness to protect the caster from harm. It's particularly useful in wilderness and nature settings. As you can see, the incantation has become more elaborate as the strength requirement is high. It's up to you and your game design to decide the exact effect of the spell and how this spell will be useful and in what scenario. So this is new that it's added. I imagine it's because I'm regenerating responses. And so there is one drawback to the fact that I'm regenerating responses here, and it's that it doesn't maintain the previous response I gave it as a reference point for how long the incantation should be. And so there is a potential for disparity in that we might get really long activations like this for a 60 strength requirement and a much, much shorter incantation activation for a 70 strength requirement. So there may be some further tweaking needed in our generation idea here to make sure that that stays consistent. We might have to give it hard-coded numbers like strength requirements of 1 to 10 can only have 1 to 3 words. Strength requirements of 10 to 20 can only have 4 to 5 words. Something like that. I don't know. We'll just continue regenerating some spells here and just see what fancy takes us. Because we can keep all or none of this. Oh, it's going to regenerate the Shadow Step spell. So this is the second time it's given us this spell. It's going to be a darkened space with a relative strength requirement of 30. And this is really what I was waiting for, was a really small strength requirement to see how this new incantation for activation goes. And this isn't going to cut it. Right? In the shadows, through the darkness, with the power of the runes, darkened space, I bid thee to grant me the power of stealth and speed, Shadow Step. It's a great incantation, but it's horrible for our purposes. So we absolutely cannot continue with the incantation for activation being this way. So let's reconsider how we're going to do that. But let's finish reading. This spell effect allows the caster to teleport short distances, becoming invisible to the naked eye for a short period of time while they move. It is commonly used as a means of escape or quick repositioning in combat. Again, it even says it's for quick repositioning, and then has this insanely long activation. I don't even understand. Flavor text: Shadow Step is a spell of stealth and secrecy, flavored by those who prize invisibility and surprise in battle. It allows the user to disappear and reappear, giving them an edge in one-on-one combat or a chance to escape a losing battle. Okay, so let's link to the activation should relate to the strength requirement. Okay, then let's do 1 to 3 words if the requirement is less than 10. 4 to 5 words for less than 20. This is going to end up getting really long. Yeah, I don't like that. You know what? I only have to type it once. For less than 30. Wow, 6 to 7 words already. I think we'll go down to 1 to 2. And then we won't go up 1 every time, so we'll do 2 to 3 here. And then 3 to 4 there for less than 30. Yeah, I like that. 4 to 5 for less than 40. And so on by tens. Let's see if that's enough to get it to extrapolate the remainder and then give us accurately what we're looking for, because it might not be, and that would be interesting to know. So let's. Oh, error occurred. No, I should have copied. It's going to erase what I just wrote. I'm going to have to write it twice. I'm so dumb. Darn it. All right, 1 to 2 words for strength less than 10. 2 to 3 for less than 20. 3 to 4 for less than 30. 4 to 5 for less than 40, and so on by tens. All right, we're going to copy this time, just in case. Shield of the Phoenix. All right, it's still using Ignis. Man, I'm really going to have to go back and fix that. So for 50, we should be getting 5 or 6 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, that's 15 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 8 after this initial. So it failed that miserably. And it is not allowing me to regenerate the response. That's weird. Again, just ChatGPT being wonky because ChatGPT is wonky. Well, I guess the next thing I want to see is let's edit this again. Let's take this out, leave it just at that 40 there, and then we'll just modify this to be 40 and just see if it follows what we're asking, because it might just be that it doesn't really understand what I'm trying to say here. And if that's the case, then yeah, it just obviously doesn't have any idea what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we've got some pretty serious work to do here. I think the best course of action is going to be to get rid of this chat and start a new one, because I don't want the Ignis rune to still be here. And the fact that we have, actually this is what's going on. It's using with the power of because this is here already, and so it's deciding that that should be there every time. And that's causing us some pretty significant problems. So yeah, we need to save. Actually, do I already have that saved in our magic system? Negative. So we want to copy this whole thing because we're going to want to post that in there. we'll put that into our magic system page that we've got. All right, and then I have the runes saved. I have the magic rules saved. And I have the generation text saved. So well, we won't delete. We'll just create a new chat. Let's go in there and post. So we take our magic rules, post them in there. Bammo. It's going to tell me all about this interesting system. I love how positive ChatGPT is when you give it information. It just spits out this wonderful little pat on the back for you. It's fantastic. Makes me feel really good about myself. All right. Then we're going to give it the runes, and I've actually saved all of its descriptions of all the runes. So here is a list of the runes in the language. We're just going to post those in there. Bammo. And it's going to pat me on the back again. Oh, it even told me that it's 26. Fantastic. See, it's almost like it's talking to its previous self because it never told me that these were emotions or abilities or whatever. It's remaking an association that it had previously made in the other chat and then sort of carrying that over to this chat. So saving data and moving it between chats is going to be an extremely powerful way to continue on with your stories when things start to get as complicated as they previously did. Right? Because we have a lot more going on here than we did or than we do here, and we already have all of the information that we need. So now we're going to copy over Ugh. Got confused there for a minute, thought I lost it. All right, we're going to copy this back over. And I want to make some modifications. I want to go back to just saying for activate, the length of the activation incantation should relate to the strength requirement, increasing as the requirement gets higher. So I want to go back to that. I liked that wording. I just didn't like that it was carrying over um, that first sentence every time. I really disliked that. But because we don't already have the previous example of a spell here, I'm hoping that it won't continue to do that. And if it doesn't, then this might be enough to get what we're trying to get. So let's make a spell in our new chat. Storm Summoning. Thunder and Air. See, and this is what I'm talking about. Number of runes required is only 2, but the relative strength requirement is 75, which means it knows it's balancing really well the power of the effects that it's generating versus the power required in order to cast the spell. And I'm really excited about that self-balancing ability. It's really interesting. So the incantation for activation is fairly long. By the power of thunder and the breath of the wind, I call upon the tempest to gather and obey. Storm, heed my call and do my bidding. Spell effect summons a powerful storm with strong winds and electrical strikes in a specific area. The storm can be directed to strike a designated target and cause heavy damage. Flavor text. The sky darkens as the winds pick up, and the sound of distant thunder grows louder. The runemaster raises their hands, speaking the incantation with authority and focus. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning strikes the ground, signaling the arrival of the summoned storm. It lashes out at the designated target, with all the fury of nature leaving destruction in its wake. Sorry about that. Had to get a drink of water. Super dry throat. Um, so we're getting that by the power stuff again, and I don't dislike it, but I do dislike it always being there. So I don't know. Let's regenerate response and see what happens. Earthen barrier. You know what I wonder? I wonder if it's following some sort of formula. So I want to go back here and go back to a previous iteration of our generation system. Okay, so the first one it created here was binding, shackles, and then frostbite. So what my thought was is we keep getting a storm and then a shield um, spell, and I was concerned that maybe it was doing it formulaically, and that it always started with the storm and then it always went to the shield. And so every time I iterated on my generation text, was it just going to keep spitting out the same things? But it doesn't appear like it's going to. So maybe that's just a fluke. So this is just an earth rune spell. Only requires 30 strength. With the strength of the earth, I erect a barrier to protect. Gotta get rid of this with the strength of earth. So going to go in here, look at this incantation and say, do not mention the runes in the activation incantation. So hopefully getting rid of the runes will give us more of what we're looking for. Man, we're really on a barrier kick right now. I think we only got one barrier skill all day yesterday. Alright, flame barrier, just a fire rune. Number of runes is 1. Relative strength is 30 by the power of flame. I told it not to use the rune names, and so it just said flame instead of fire. What a snarky motherfucker. Wow. That's hilarious. Okay. Okay. Do not. Okay. I got you. We're going to say then with a minimum of 1 word and a maximum of 20 words. Maybe if I tell it a range and that it knows it potentially can only use 1 word, then it'll stop doing that. Yes, it can literally change the world with just a few words. Figuratively and literally. My figurative world, of course, and then the real world. What what are you planning on using the AI for? Do you have a specific project in mind or a specific field of study or something that you're interested in using it for? All right, so this time it gave me a really interesting incantation for activation. Flammis eris fulmina terram incendent mundum. I assume that's Latin. If it's not Latin, it sounds a lot like Latin. I am going to check. if it's Latin. I don't think it's Latin. I think it might have just made that up. Flames of air, thunder of earth ignite the world. That's really interesting. I like that it gave me two potential things there, just the English or this weird language. I wonder if it will continue with that convention based on that prompt. With the spell effect, creates a raging storm of fire that burns and engulfs everything in its path. Flavor text: as a rune master speaks the incantation, the runes of fire, air, and thunder glow brightly, and a raging storm of flames erupts, engulfing everything in its path. The heat is intense, and the destruction is catastrophic. Those caught in the storm are burned alive, and the inferno rages on, leaving nothing but ash and ruin in its wake. The spell is not to be used lightly, as its power is immense and its consequences dire. Interesting. I really like this new convention. If that continues, we may not have to make any more changes to our incantation for activation prompt. So let's regenerate another response and see what we get this time. Another skill for using ChatGPT is a lot of times people are running into hitting an hourly limit for the text that they're generating. And I think it's a lot because people are just in here just pounding away extremely quickly, not taking time to consider what they're writing, considering the outputs. If you slow it down a little bit and really take a look at what you're doing, it helps a lot that I'm constantly talking to, well, apparently right now just one viewer, but because I'm constantly trying to explain what I'm doing and I'm reading out everything out loud that it's saying, that's obviously helping me slow down a lot. But I have yet to hit, even when I'm working on my own, the rate limiter for inputs. And that's because this is an AI assistant. You should not be using it as the primary creative um, creative mind, right? You're the primary creative mind, and even though it's pounding all this out and it's generating all this stuff, you have to read everything that it writes and consider its impact on your story, its impact on your world, and whether or not it's valid for what you're trying to do. And that's not just for creative works like creating a fictional world. If you're coding with it, if you're doing anything with it, if you're having it write a speech for you, whatever it is, you constantly need to be considering what it's giving you because ultimately you have to edit the last version. You need to be creating the end product. And so that consideration is going to help prevent you from hitting that rate limit, feeling that frustration of maybe not being able to continue when you want to. Uh, I know a lot of people want to work as fast as possible, but there's a saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And that absolutely applies here. If you hit that rate limit and you have to wait, then you have to go back and do all of that considering and all of that editing and all of that thought anyway, because you can't continue to use the assistant. So you might as well do it while you're using the assistant. So this spell is going to be called Empowerment. It's going to be a fire and aether spell. Number of runes is 2. Relative strength required is 75. So the incantation for activation is by the flames of passion and the magic of the aether, I call upon the power within me to rise. So now we've gone back to um, that old convention of using by the flames, blah 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 blah. And again, I really don't like that convention, and I'm having a really hard time getting it to stop doing that. Oh, absolutely. There are tons of scripts that can be generated for development. I don't um I like programming and I do intend to use it for programming, but that's probably not something I'll do on stream. For example, I'm trying to build a website for the project that originally created this YouTube channel, which is the Forever Adventures Library, which is actually a Discord where we're writing human written create or choose your own adventure books. We're doing that collaboratively, and we've got a whole system worked out for linking different posts and stuff like that, so that we can carry on the stories. But that started about 2.5 months ago, and then just about a week ago, I found ChatGPT and realized it was going to be a huge benefit for me creating that website. But also because I had become so much a part of a lot of art Reddits and communities and writing Reddits and communities through trying to advertise for the library Discord. I was seeing a lot of stuff about ChatGPT and some of the ethical concerns and questions that were going on around it, and how people were, concerned about losing their jobs and maybe not being relevant anymore because of, the power of this to overtake a lot of the creative space. And so that's just a lot of where I'm coming from personally, is because of my trying to create the library, and because of my own general interest in world building and writing. That's where my focus with the AI is. I do like programming. When I went to college, I was majoring in computer science, although I never graduated. So absolutely, the potential for use as a programmer is huge with this assistant, and I imagine it's only going to get better. I mean, it knows languages I had never heard of until I started using it, like the Wolfram language for computation. So it's super powerful. It knows a lot of different stuff. Okay, well, I don't like this spell at all. I'm really mad about this convention. It's a real sticking point for me, and I really don't know how to overcome it. This will be the second time we've created Flame Strike. This time it's only a one rune, and now it's telling me that just the word Ignis Exurere is 6 words long. Oh, that's fun. So something that's kind of quirky about ChatGPT is that it straight up can't count. It's the worst at just basic computation. I think it's probably one, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, it's probably counting both of the quotations as well as the comma and the exclamation mark as words. Which honestly I'm not upset about. I like that this is so short. Um, Spell effect creates a bolt of flame that strikes a target, causing fire damage. Flavor text: with a fierce cry, the rune master draws upon the power of the fire rune to unleash a scorching bolt of flame that incinerates their enemies. The flame strike spell is a powerful and precise attack that can strike down even the most formidable of foes. It may be used to ignite flammable materials or to set a barrier of fire around the target. So I actually really like this spell. The flame strike spell that we got previously was when we weren't using a set of runes, and it actually used the Ignis and Vengeance runes. And it gave us a really interesting backstory about who created the Flame Strike spell. And I like that backstory a lot, and so I would be a little loath to use this particular version of the skill. But we don't have a Vengeance rune anymore, although it could just be added. And maybe I'll add some specialty runes to the mix at some point. But that's very interesting. I like that it has given us an only 2 word answer here. Although I would have liked to have seen it maybe reduce the power requirement. But again, that's some tweaking that can be done just independently. You don't have to keep this exactly as it is. So let's see what else we get here. I think we're gonna maybe just do a couple more here, and then probably move on to some world building of a different type. Maybe talk about some races or some regions or kingdoms or something like that in the world, and maybe build a new engine that can create some towns or some points of interest or some other interesting thing like that for our world. Maybe even get it to a point where you could really use it for a tabletop RPG or something like that. So we've got Vitality Surge, just using the life rune with a relative strength of 40. Energize my being, let the force of life flow through me. So we have gotten away from that previous convention. It did use it once, but so far it's only used it once, and I'm really happy about that. The spell effect is the spell targets the user, granting them an increase in vitality and energy, restoring a portion of their strength and allowing them to continue fighting or performing other strenuous activities. Flavor text: the Rune Master focuses their energy, speaking the incantation with conviction as they inscribe the life rune. With a surge of energy, the Rune Master feels renewed and ready for action. Fantastic. I actually really like that one. I also am curious, most of the spells that I've asked it to tell me a story about. So something I just realized, I should always regenerate a response before asking it to tell me a story, because I want to be able to go back to a point where um, I didn't have another response down here, so that when I regenerate response, it regenerates from this point. Actually, I could probably just go backwards. Yeah, let's try some things out. Let's have it tell me. Tell me a story about the Rune Master who created this spell. Give them a name that is not found in popular literature. If I can spell. Doesn't matter if I can spell, because ChatGPT knows what I'm trying to say. Once there was a new rune master named Adira, who was known for her passion for creating new and innovative spells. She had always been fascinated by the power of the life rune, and had devoted much of her study and practice to understanding its full potential. As a young apprentice, Adira had struggled with her own vitality and energy, often feeling weak and exhausted. She became determined to find a way to harness the power of the life rune to boost her own strength and resilience. Through many years of experimentation and study, Adira finally discovered the incantation and method to create a spell that would grant her the vitality and energy she needed. She named it Vitality Surge. Adira's spell quickly gained popularity among the other rune masters, who found it to be a useful tool in battle and other physically demanding tasks. They too were amazed by the effects of the spell, and many of them sought out Adira to learn her technique. Over time, Adira's reputation as a skilled and innovative rune master grew, and she became respected and revered in the community. She continued to create new spells and share her knowledge with others, always striving to find new ways to harness the power of the runes for the betterment of all. Adira lived a long, full life, and her legacy lived on through the many rune masters she had trained and the spells she had created. But none of her spells ever matched the success of Vitality Surge, that helped her to overcome her own weakness and paved the way for many other rune masters. I really So the AI assistant has done a really good job when creating these stories about the people who created the runes. So this is um, yeah, your problem about it ending is a limitation of the assistant itself. There's only so many words or characters it'll give you before it stops. Also, sometimes those sudden hiccups are created by like when there's a lot of extra users and stuff online, you're going to see a lot more sluggishness with the assistant, but also you're going to see a lot more weird quirks of it not completing sentences or it not completing things. You've seen a couple of times on here I've gotten kind of booted out of the system, or it's just stopped giving me responses, and then when I refresh the page, it um, it deletes things that I had previously done, like it's not saving them anymore. This is an extremely beta version of ChatGPT. So absolutely, there's going to be quirks. You're going to have a little bit of a hard time with it. The best thing to do is, like you've been doing, just hit continue, and he's going to continue on. but there is a limit to the number of characters or words that they'll give you at a single time. So just be aware of that. It might be good to try and break what you're looking for down into smaller chunks, especially if you're asking for code. I know sometimes a little bit of what's in between two responses might get lost. So try and break it into smaller chunks that you know are going to fit within that apparent limitation, and then you should end up with a much better experience. But like I was saying, I really, really like the context of the stories and the way it seems to be using its understanding of what these runes mean to create the personality of the person behind the spell's creation. So when it created the story of the person who created Flamestrike, when he was using fire and vengeance runes, the story was about him losing his family and then creating the spell specifically to go out and kill the person who had killed his family. And so it tells that story, but it also tells the story in context to why you might choose to use these runes. You know, here this person made an ability called Vitality Surge, and with nothing but the information that it generated itself about the name of the spell and the associations of what the life rune means, it came up with the idea that Adira was an enfeebled person and so needed to increase their own strength and energy, and so they sought out a purpose, or they sought out a rune for this very specific purpose because of a shortcoming they had. Yeah, there is a limit to the number of times it will allow a person to give a prompt every hour. So it's not that you can only use it one prompt per hour, but I also don't know a specific number of how many times it allows you to use a prompt. So it might be one or two, it might be 10, it might be however many. But like I said, if you slow down your process and really consider what's going on, I have personally never run into that limitation. So yeah, I think just being a little bit slow about how you go about using the bot should help you alleviate some of that. All right, and then I want to go back and I want to try something. If I go here and I tell it to regenerate, it's going to give me 5 of 5. That's fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So now I can get it to tell me these stories. And then, oh wow, even if you do in the middle of it, that's nice. That's really, really nice. This button right here, best button in the entire world. Fireball. Uses the fire rune. Has a relative strength of 60. Ignis Incendiare. Latin for ignite fire. I really like it. I like that it's not feeling totally locked down by how many words it should be using. Right? Fireball, even though it's a strong skill, quick activation, I like that. A spell effect. The fire rune is activated, causing a ball of flame to manifest and shoot towards a target, dealing damage to anything in its path. Flavor text. With a fierce determination and a powerful incantation, the spellcaster summons a blazing ball of fire, hurling it towards their enemy with deadly precision. The heat is intense, the light blinding, leaving nothing but ash in its wake. That's really interesting. All right, let's do one more because I think we've seen that it's going to give us exactly what we were looking for when we created this new activation text. So we're going to generate one more here, and then we're going to move on to some other world building. Ooh, summon spirit. This is the first time it's used the summoning rune, I think. That's exciting. Anima Veni, come spirit. Allows the caster to summon and communicate with the spirit of a deceased being. The spirit will appear in a semi-tangible form and will be able to provide information and guidance to the caster for a brief period of time before returning to the spirit realm. Flavor text. The rune master closed their eyes, traced the summoning rune in the air with their fingers, and spoke the incantation. A chill ran down their spine as the spirit of their deceased friend appeared before them, ready to offer wisdom from beyond the grave. That's a really, really nice one. That's fantastic. So I'm going to save this because it looks like this generation text is working extremely well. And I am going to paste it. That. Move this up here. We're going to add. Fantastic. All right. So let's take a look at some of our world building then. We started talking about a magic system. It gave us some interesting things here. Now we're going to have a little bit of fun and we are going to edit this. And instead of talking about the magic system, let's talk about races, cultures, magic system. What should we talk about? Is there anybody in here who might give me a hint as to what they're interested in? Hmm. Well, let's talk about the dominant human kingdom. Save and submit. So now we can always go back and we can still read everything that it had generated for us about the magic system. But also, we can just boom and get this whole new chat. Sure, you can tell me about what this human. Sure, can you tell me a bit about what this human kingdom is like? What is its government and social structure like? Does it have a history or backstory that's important to the world you're building? Are there any conflicts or challenges that the kingdom is currently facing? This will help me understand how to better help you create this kingdom. Sorry, throat got dry again. Had to get some water. All right. Let's say currently the kingdom is a monarchy with a similar noble hierarchy to medieval European societies. Got it. So the kingdom is a monarchy with a noble class similar to medieval European societies. Are there any specific influences you are drawing from, such as the medieval kingdom of England, France, or Spain? Are there any unique features or twists that set this kingdom apart from the real medieval world, from real world medieval monarchies? It would be also important to know about how does the kingdom economy work? Is there any major industry or resource that thrive or that drives the kingdom's wealth, or maybe a specific religion that influences the kingdom's political or social dynamics? Also would be good to know about the relations this kingdom has with other nations or groups. Are there any neighboring kingdoms or empires that the human kingdom is in conflict with? So this just made me realize that even though we're talking about the kingdom, we do need to inform the AI at this point that there is a magic system. So we're going to go back to our saved information. We're not going to give it all the runes. We're just going to, we're not even going to give it all the rules. We're just going to say that, let's go back to this. Let's go here and edit and say, oh, okay, excellent. So we want to edit this, and we're actually going to delete everything that we previously wrote because I want to create an entirely new prompt right here that says, give an extremely brief summary of the magic system so far. And then I'm going to have it create that. And the reason I'm doing that is that I want something that I can paste into these other areas where we're going to be building other parts of the world. But I don't want it to be too long. The more you condense, the more information you can fit into these other into these other sections, so that you have as much cross influence as possible, so you get the most coherent overall story. And that's going to be an important theme all the way throughout our world building, is just constantly condensing down information and then um, constantly condensing down information and then reusing it in other places, and ultimately building up this just stack of information so that we can start actually making our story. So here we go. This world has a magic system. Here is a brief explanation. And we're just going to post that in there. Bammo. All right, so it gives us our nice little pat on the back, um, reminds us of what we just said so that we know that it understood, which I love. In regards to the kingdom you mentioned, it's a medieval inspired monarchy that could be influenced by the presence of magic and rune masters in their society. They could have a powerful and respected class of magic-using nobles, or a powerful order of rune masters who serve as advisors to the monarchy. The economy of the kingdom could be driven by the resources that are required for the creation of the and use of runes. For example, certain minerals or herbs could also be possible. I'm sorry. Also could be possible that the kingdom has a strong tradition of magic study and education, and that many of its citizens have at least some knowledge of runemancy. The presence of this magic system can also have impact on the relations of this kingdom with others. Maybe they try to keep the knowledge of runes secret and tightly controlled, or maybe they use the power of runes to intimidate or dominate other nations. The possibilities are endless. Let me know if you have any further ideas or questions about this or any other aspect of the world you are building. Okay, well, it gave us some really good ideas there. I really like the idea of not necessarily a noble class, but certainly an order of rune masters. Um, but I want that order of rune masters to be something that anyone can aspire to. So let's say, let's include an order of rune masters that serve the king, the monarch. Let's not say king. The monarch directly, that is, what's a word for populated? I don't want to say populated. Uh, who, which, okay. The ranks of this order are filled by the best rune masters in the kingdom, regardless of social class. That sounds like an interesting addition to the kingdom. An order of rune masters that serve the monarch directly could play an important role in the government and politics of the kingdom. They could be responsible for advising the monarch on the use of magic in times of war, or for creating magical items for the kingdom's army, or for personal use of the monarch. You also mentioned that the ranks of this order are filled with the best rune masters in the kingdom regardless of their social class. This means that anyone could become a member regardless of their birth, allowing for people of lower classes to rise in status and power through their proficiency in runemancy. This could also be a source of tension with the noble class and add complexity to the social dynamics of the kingdom. This order of rune masters could also play a role in the economy of the kingdom, as they could be involved in the production of magical items such as enchanted weapons or protective amulets that could be valuable trade goods. Additionally, this order could act as a sort of secret police or internal security force for the kingdom, using their abilities to gather intelligence, control dissent, or tracking down criminals or enemies of the state. All of these are just possibilities and ideas, but it's important to remember that you are the creator and knower of this world, and you decide which elements or aspects you want to include. If there's something specific that you have in mind, please let me know. So these responses that it gives are an exceptionally useful tool. And the reason that is because it's explaining to you what the prompts that you give it mean to it. So if I told it to write a story right now, it's giving you information about how it might perceive the world based on the information we've determined so far to be true inside of our world. Now, we can continue to cherry pick and narrow those parameters, right? Like, I don't necessarily like the idea of a secret police. Maybe a small subsection of this group might act as secret police, right? People who are specifically skilled in um, like long range spying, scrying, stuff like that. Maybe you would have some interaction with the security forces, but I certainly don't want the entire order to be that way. So I'm probably not going to specifically include anything about that. until I nail down a little bit more about what I want that role to be like. But um, we have talked a little, or it does talk a little bit about the role of rune masters in the economy of the kingdom, and it talks about creating magical items or enchanted weapons. But I would be more interested in seeing this order create spells specifically, well, create spells and teach spells specifically to assist the um, the trade workers in the kingdom, trade workers and you know sailors and stuff like that who are moving goods, merchants. Um, so creating fire spells to heat up forges. We wouldn't be using coal or anything like that for fuel anymore. We would build our forge and then we would inscribe the inside of that forge with runes, and then activating those runes would be what kept things hot. And then, of course, the strength requirement, the physical strength requirement, like our magic system says, that is required in order to both initiate and maintain spells, means that our tradesmen are going to be using more strength to continue to keep those furnaces running. So you might actually have additional people who are just there to fuel the furnace, right? Their whole purpose, they're not working metal, they're not doing anything like that. They're just focusing energy on maintaining the spells in the furnace. So I really like that. So the order's primary focus is creating spells that assist different trades people like smiths, masons, woodworkers, and sailors. All right. All right, so that's an interesting direction to take the Order of Rune Masters in. Creating spells that assist different tradespeople like smiths, masons, woodworkers, and sailors can make them highly valued and respected members of society. These spells could range from simple enchantments that make tools more efficient to complex spells that help create buildings and ships faster and more accurately. The Order could also develop a special relationship with the different guilds of tradespeople. The guilds would likely be eager to have the Order's support and cooperation, and in return, the Order would gain access to the resources, skills, and knowledge of the guilds. Also, this kind of spells could help the kingdom to have a powerful economy and the ability to export goods of high quality. This could bring the kingdom a reputation of wealth and prosperity and could be a powerful tool of diplomacy, making trade deals with other kingdoms or nations. Additionally, the Order of Rune Masters could become an important center of research and experimentation in runemancy. The Order members could be constantly working to find new and more efficient ways to use runes to aid in the various trades. This could open possibilities of new and unknown spells or technology based on this magic system. As you can see, this idea can open a lot of possibilities and new aspects to include in your world. I hope this helps, and let me know if you have any other questions. So, I have a really interesting idea and I want to try it out right this very second. So, give give me a description of the actually, let's name our kingdom. What is its name? Do not use any names from popular literature. Sure, when naming a fantasy kingdom is good. Again, this is just the basic pat on the back telling me that it knows some things to consider. Okay, Eorlanthier. This name evokes a sense of ancient noble history. Could work well for a kingdom that has been around for a long time and is proud of its heritage. Arvendor. This name sounds like it could be the name of a kingdom that is located in a forested or mountainous region. That's exactly what I thought when I read that name. That's insane. Calandria. This name sounds like it could be the name of a kingdom that is located in a coastal region, evokes feelings of warmth and sea breezes. Eltariel. This name has a feeling of high magic and mystery, suitable for a kingdom that is closely tied to the magic system of your world. And Carmathia. This name gives a feeling of a kingdom that is well organized and bureaucratic, with a sense of order and efficiency. I think I'm going to go for Calandria because I want this to be a seafaring kingdom. So let's name the kingdom Calandria. Okay, now let's name our order of rune masters. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm really going to have to read this, but Calandria is a great name of a fantasy kingdom. It evokes feelings of warmth, sea breeze, and coastal regions. This name could work well for a kingdom that is located on the coast and that has an economy based on seafaring, fishing, or trade. Calandria sounds like a kingdom that could have a rich culture and history tied to the sea, like the stories of sailors, pirates, mermaids, and sea monsters. As I mentioned before, this kind of kingdom could have powerful economy with the ability to export goods of high quality. This could bring Calandria a reputation of wealth and prosperity, and could be a powerful tool for diplomacy, making trade deals with other kingdoms or nations. This also opens possibilities for a complex political web, as neighboring kingdoms or trading partners could be envious of Calandria's wealth and could create tensions and conflicts. The presence of the Order of Rune Masters, which you said is primarily focused on creating spells that assist different tradespeople like smiths, masons, woodworkers, and sailors, could be an important asset for Calandria. They could be responsible for creating enchantments that aid in the construction of ships, lighthouses, ports, and other sea-related structures. This could make Calandria's navy and merchant fleet among the strongest in the world. I hope this helps to give you a better idea of what your kingdom of Calandria could be like. Let me know if you have any other questions or would like more information about the world you're building. Let's name our order of rune masters. What are some names? When naming an order of rune masters, it's a good idea to choose a name that reflects their function and purpose in the world. Here are a few name options. The Runic Brotherhood. This name evokes a sense of unity and camaraderie among the members of the order, suggesting that they work closely together towards a common goal. The Rune Keepers. This name suggests the order is responsible for safeguarding and maintaining the knowledge of runes and runemancy. The Rune Wardens. This name gives the impression of a group that is dedicated to protecting and defending the kingdom and its citizens through the use of runes and magic. The Rune Bound. This name gives the feeling that the members of the order are deeply connected to the magic of runes, as if they are bound to them in some way. And the Runic Mastery. This name suggests that the members of the order are the most skilled and proficient rune masters in the kingdom, that they have achieved mastery of the art of runemancy. I personally like the Runic Brotherhood because I think that it gives not only a sense of camaraderie among the members, but also that sense of camaraderie with the kingdom at large. And because they're so focused on creating spells specifically to help the everyday lives of people and tradesmen, then I think that that's just an extremely pertinent name. So let's call them the Runic Brotherhood. The Runic Brotherhood is a great name for the order of rune masters you have described. It evokes a sense of unity and camaraderie among the members of the order and reflects that they work closely together towards a common goal. This name could also imply that the order is a secret society. Well, that's the opposite of what I wanted. Or a group that is only open to a select few who have to share the same beliefs and practices. The Runic Brotherhood in Calandria, with its primary focus on creating spells that assist different tradespeople like smiths, masons, woodworkers, and sailors, could be a highly respected and powerful institution in your kingdom. Their knowledge of runes and runemancy would be in high demand, and their enchantments could greatly increase the efficiency and productivity of many different industries in Calandria. It's possible that the Runic Brotherhood also takes the responsibility to educate new rune masters, which I would like to have it do, or perhaps make an entirely different school, I'm not sure yet. Having a kind of school or academy where the new generations can study, learn, and practice the art of runemancy. This order could also have a special relationship with the different guilds of tradespeople, though guilds would likely be eager to have the order's support and cooperation, providing access to resources, skills, and knowledge of the guilds. In return, the Order could gain access to the guild's networks of trade and commerce, extending its influence and power across the kingdom. All of these are just possibilities, but it's important to remember that you are the creator and knower of this world. You decide which elements or aspects you want to include. If you have any more ideas or questions, let me know. Interesting. Okay, and now I am going to get it. Give me a brief description of the Runic Brotherhood based on the characteristics we have decided on. So this is the thing that I was really eager to try is I want to get a description of the Brotherhood because they have a very specific focus for how they're creating spells. I want to generate some spells using this information about the Brotherhood. So the Runic Brotherhood is an exclusive. I don't want it to be exclusive. I don't like this at all. Nope. Don't like that. We're going to change it. Give me a list of the Runic Brotherhood's characteristics that I have told you to keep. They are a powerful order of rune masters who serve the monarch of Calandria directly. The ranks of the order are filled with the best rune masters in the kingdom, regardless of social class. The order's primary focus is creating spells that assist different tradespeople, such as smiths. The order may have a special relationship with the different guilds of tradespeople. They could be a respected and powerful institution in the kingdom, great demand for their knowledge from runes and runemancy. The order could also take the responsibility of educating new runemasters. They could also have a role in the kingdom's economy. The order may also impact the relations of Calandria with other kingdoms. So I like that it listed the things that I expressly told it first. So, and then it started using may, could, might, things like that. So you say we've got all these they are a powerful ranks. They are filled. The order's primary focus is creating spells. And then maybe these other things. So it's really good at keeping that stuff separated and allowing you to be the one who's building things out. So I'm going to keep these things And I'm actually even going to save that right there. I'm going to drop that into the note-taking program that I use. And now we're going to go over here and we're going to create some magic. We go back here. So we want to keep the list of runes. We want to not generate new spells. So we're going to edit this one. Edit this one. And in that, we're going to put, here's a list of characteristics for the runic brotherhood. Okay, they are a powerful order of rune masters that serve the monarch of Calandria directly. And this is why, so earlier we noticed that the name Calandria, the bot told us that it thinks that the name Calandria talks about a seafaring kingdom. Right, so in an extremely brief sentence here, a powerful order of runemancers who serve the monarch of Calandria directly. Right, we've gotten tons of information condensed down into just this. The ranks of the order are filled by the best runemancers in the kingdom, regardless of social class. And the order's primary focus is creating spells that assist different tradespeople, such as smiths, masons, woodworkers, and sailors. So we're going to save and submit that. And then the list provided describes a fictional organization called the Runic Brotherhood, which is a powerful order of rune masters. They serve the monarch of a place called Calandria directly, and the ranks of the order are filled with the best rune masters in the kingdom, regardless of social class. The organization's primary focus is creating spells that assist different tradespeople, such as smiths, masons, woodworkers, and sailors. This suggests the organization's role is to help the tradespeople in the kingdom by using their abilities in rune magic. Fantastic. Now, we're going to go back over here. We're going to recopy our generation text. We're going to come right over here and we're going to paste it down here. And we're going to see if we can't get some spells very specifically tailored to this organization. Gather Storm just uses thunder, number of runes 1. Arcanum Tempest Clamo, I call upon the Arcane Tempest. This spell creates a storm cloud above the target area, gathering a powerful charge of electricity. After a brief charging period, the cloud releases a bolt of lightning on the designated target, dealing moderate to high electrical damage. Flavor text: the skies darken as the runemaster speaks the incantation, and a tempest forms overhead. A crack of thunder splits the air as a bolt of lightning strikes the target, leaving them singed and dazed. So this is a much tamer version of a spell that we've had generated already. And that's really interesting. I like that it keeps changing things up and giving me new stuff. Let's try again. See if we get anything. Forge fire. See, this is what I'm talking about. Oh my god, it's so wonderful. Second try, it's absolutely going to give us something very specifically about a trade. So Forge Fire, we're only going to be using one rune, which is fire. Relative strength is 25. This is great. It's a trade spell, so it's got to be something that you're going to have to be able to upkeep for a long time. Spell effect. The spell imbues a weapon or tool with the element of fire, temporarily increasing its cutting or smashing power. The spell also causes the weapon or tool to emit a bright red light, allowing the user to see in dark places. Flavor text: with a fierce incantation and a wave of your hand, the weapon in your grasp is engulfed in a burning aura, the heat emanating from it enough to make onlookers step back in awe. As you strike your target, the weapon cuts through like a hot knife through butter, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. So this is fantastic. I don't necessarily like this spell specifically, especially something called Forge Fire. I would actually like to have as maybe a spell that's really for igniting or maintaining a forge. But it's walking down the correct path, right? We've given it this information about this runic brotherhood. We've told it that these these rune masters specifically help the tradespeople of the kingdom. And now instead of giving us spells like it had previously been giving us when we didn't have that information, right? It was giving us firestorms and empowerments and flame strikes. Now with just this little bit of extra context, we're seeing a whole new class of spells come out. And that's exceptionally exciting. I'm super excited. So let's rock another one. Spell name Ironforged. Ironforged Strength. Okay. Arcane English rune names Earth and Fire. It's going to be a relative strength requirement of 60. Incantation for activation by Earth and Fire Ironforged Strength be mine. Spell effect. The spell imbues the target's weapon or armor with the properties of Earth and Fire, granting them increased strength and durability. Text. The blacksmith's hammer strikes the anvil with a mighty ring as the runemaster chants the incantation. A fiery glow surrounds the metal as it hardens and strengthens, ready for the battles ahead. Okay, so this is specifically about creating an armor that's going to be imbued with additional durability, or a weapon that's going to be imbued with additional durability. That's very interesting. So it's already considering using the runes specifically for creating things. I actually would be interested, right? Because this is obviously going to end up being a tale about a smith. But if I ask it to tell me a story about the rune master who created this spell. This is, I mean, seriously, just my favorite part of this whole process is getting it to tell me these stories. It is so much fun to learn about your world in this way. So, tell me a story. Once upon a time. This is actually one of the first times it's used once upon a time. That's wonderful. Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Calandria, it even knows what kingdom he's from, obviously, there lived a young boy named Crom. He was born into a family of blacksmiths, and from a young age he showed a talent for working with metal. As he grew older, he found that he had a passion for creating weapons and armor for the local villagers and the kingdom's soldiers. Crom always believed that there had to be a way to make his creations even stronger and more durable. One day, while working on a sword for a local knight, he had an epiphany. He remembered hearing stories of a powerful order of rune masters, the Runic Brotherhood, who could imbue objects with magical properties. Determined to join the order, Crom left his family's forge and set out to find the Brotherhood. After many months of travel, he finally reached Calandria's capital and found the Brotherhood's stronghold. He approached the gates and requested to speak with one of the leaders of the order, telling them of his desire to join and his idea of imbuing magic weapons and armor with magic. The leader listened to Crom's idea and saw potential in the young blacksmith, so he allowed Crom to join the order as an apprentice. Over the next several years, Crom studied under the guidance of the rune masters and practiced tirelessly, experimenting with different combinations of runes to achieve his goal. One day during his training, he found the perfect combination of runes that represented earth and fire, and with the incantation, he imbued his sword with increased strength and durability. The leaders of the Brotherhood were impressed by Crom's skill and dedication, and they granted him the title of Rune Master. Apparently, beautiful girls here. Interesting. Thanks for that. After this, Crom named the spell Ironforge Strength and shared it with other members of the Brotherhood. It quickly became one of the most popular spells among the blacksmiths and armorers of the kingdom, making their work much easier and their creations stronger. Crom became a legend among the tradespeople. His name was associated with the spell, and many would come to him to imbue their weapons and armor with Ironforge Strength. He had achieved his goal and made his family's business thrive too. Crom continued to work with the Runic Brotherhood for many years, creating many other spells and helping the tradespeople of Calandria become even more skilled and successful. His legacy lived on through his spells, and even long after he passed away, people still remembered him as the Rune Master who created Ironforge Strength. This is fantastic. Is there a way to get rid of this person? If you block this person, you won't be able to see their messages. They won't see your messages either unless you post a channel where they're a moderator. You block this person. Sweet. That's awesome. So I really love how things have taken a turn, and it really makes me think we're gonna have to create I mean, there are going to be orders all over the world, right? It was a common theme and is a common theme in medieval fantasy that you have orders of mages that do all kinds of different things. And so creating those orders is going to help us narrow down some of our spells and generate a much wider concept of what magic really means in our world. So we're going to go back here now to Forge Fire. We're going to regenerate response and get ourselves a new spell. And that's going to not get rid of that stuff that we wrote, but it's going to allow us to move forward. And we can always go back and we can read all this stuff again, and it's all still there. All right, so spell name Shield of Protection. American English rune is going to be the Protection rune. Relative strength of 20. Guard and defend. Let none harm me. I like that incantation. Spell effect: the Shield of Protection spell creates a barrier around the user that protects them from physical and magical harm. The barrier can absorb a certain amount of damage before dissipating. Flavor text: with the Shield of Protection spell, a rune master can feel secure in the knowledge that they are protected from harm, allowing them to stand tall in the face of danger and keep fighting. This spell can be a lifesaver in dire situations and perfect for warriors and adventurers. Um, so this is not really related at all to a runic brotherhood. Of course, they would create spells that weren't always directly related to tradespeople, but really I'm interested in seeing the trade spells that they come up with, or that the AI comes up with. Um, so we're going to just move on from this one, because it's something that's pretty generic and would have been created some other way. Now it's recreating the spell Forge Fire. That's interesting. That's the first time I've seen it do that within the same series of prompts. Fervent flames ignite my forge spell effect. This spell causes the fire in a blacksmith's forge to burn. This is this is exactly what I was talking about. When we previously saw the forge fire spell, I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't about igniting a forge, and now here we are. I swear to God, it must be listening to me. The spell causes the fire in a blacksmith's forge to burn hotter, allowing for the smithing of better quality metal or working at a faster pace. Flavor text: with the death movement of his hand and the incantation of the forge fire spell, the blacksmith watched as the forge roared to life with intense heat, allowing him to craft the finest weapons and armor for the king's army. Fervent flames ignite my forge. This is fantastic. I really love this. So far, it's only really given us smithing and forge related spells. We did mention that uh, they create stuff for smiths, masons, woodworkers, and sailors. So I am interested to see if it's going to build us some spells for maybe some other trade classes. Mending Blade uses the life rune. What an interesting. Oh, mend my blade. Okay. Repairs any small damages on the target blade or weapon. This is a great little spell. I might take this by the power of life out and just use mend my blade as the activation. It's only a 25 strength requirement. I actually might even reduce that because we're just repairing minor damages to a weapon. Um, Obviously, this would be a spell that someone at some point created. You're always going to need to be upkeeping your equipment, um, no matter who you. I mean, even in real life, right? You repair and upkeep equipment all the time. So this is definitely something that would exist in our fantasy world. It's not a terribly important spell, but it is something that should exist, and I'm happy that it is created. All right, so we've got Swift Wind, uses the air rune, all the way down to a 10 strength requirement. Swift Wind's Hear My Call, that's a really quick activation. Spell effect: the spell creates a burst of wind that propels the target forward at high speeds, giving them increased speed for a short period of time. Flavor text: with a single word and a wave of your hand, you call upon the power of the air rune, summoning a gust of wind to lift you up and propel you forward at lightning speeds. It says with a single word when it gives us a 5-word activation. Silly. Okay, so I'm enjoying the spells that it's creating, but it's not creating spells specifically for my Brotherhood, which I want. So generate a spell effect with the following format for the fantasy world we are creating together. So let's instead say generate a spell effect that would be created by the Runic Brotherhood to assist a trade. Don't need the word together. Then let's submit that. There we go. There we go. Getting real specific. Smith's Forging Flame. Just the fire rune. Ignis Ferrarius Ferrum Fundi. Smithing fire forged the iron. Ooh, I like that. Spell effect. This spell enhances the heat of a forge by increasing the intensity of the fire, allowing for more efficient and faster forging of metal. So this is just like the forge fire one that we had before, but it's flavored a little more specifically in its name, and some of its requirements are pretty similar. But it's obvious that the system is now very actively looking to create trade skill spells. The Rune Master speaks the incantation, casting the fire rune upon the forge. The flames roar to life, heating the metal quickly and evenly, much to the delight of the smith. The spell makes the metal malleable, easier to shape and mold, helping to create beautiful and durable works of art. That's fantastic. All right, let's see if it's going to continue with the trend. Okay, we're going to make Forge Fire, which is going to be Fire and Aether. By the forge and the flame, let fire and aether combine. I'm already not liking this spell because it uses this by the forge and the flame prefix to its incantation, which is a convention that it's followed for a really long time, and I've had a hard time getting it to stop doing. And I really don't like it because I would like to have the ability to have much smaller incantations for activation, much shorter. And so I'm really not happy about that. So I probably wouldn't use this spell. The spell creates a magical flame that burns hotter and brighter than a normal fire. This enhances the heat of the forge, allowing for the smith. So it's another smithing spell. Yeah, we're just gonna skip right through this one. Oh, and then it's gonna give us forge fire all over again. Hmm. Our prompt does not appear to be working as intended. This incantation for activation is really nice, at least. Hmm. It's really stuck on this forge thing, isn't it? Skip right through that. See if it. No, it cannot get out of this loop. That's crazy. This is the first time something like this has really happened to me. I've gotten lots of different spells out of this system. I'm really, really surprised at how stuck this seems to be just based on this information about trades. I'm absolutely certain that it's because I'm talking about trades up here. Um, Maybe instead of putting to assist a trade, maybe we just put a spell that would be created by the Runic Brotherhood. Because I did put a trade, so maybe it shows a trade and then just really stuck with that trade. Let's see. Let's submit. Smith Forge again.
we may have to go all the way back up to here and get rid of the examples smiths, masons, woodworkers, and sailors, and just say that they assist tradespeople and see what it does with that. Yeah, it's totally stuck. So we're going to copy that. We're going to edit this. We're going to take out this such as, the tradespeople in there. Save and submit. The Runic Brotherhood, described as a fictional group of powerful rune masters who serve the monarch of Calandria directly. The group is made up of the best rune masters in the kingdom, regardless of social class. The primary focus of the order is creating spells that assist different tradespeople, making their work more efficient and effective. This group may use the runes to help different people in different industry or trade to have a better life. So it made the association that it's going to help different tradespeople. So let's post this back in here. We've just got that the Runic Brotherhood would make. So we're not referencing any specific trades at any point. The harvest blessing. There we go. So that's all we had to do. So previously, because we had listed that smith first, and that may actually be why we see so many fire spells. Is fire the first of the runes? No, I mean it's the third, but that may be why we see so many more elemental runes than we see a lot of these other. Like we haven't seen a knowledge rune yet come up. We haven't seen a time rune yet come up. I think maybe this one just now had abundance in it. Yeah, earth and abundance. So this is the first time we've seen the abundance rune come up. So we may need to weight those in some way. Interacting with this AI assistant is very much like a coding language, right? You're trying to get a specific effect out of the assistant, the program, each time. And it's really about learning how that assistant is going to perceive the plain English words that you've given it and what it's going to output because of those. As you've seen, as we've done this world building, the AI assistant contextualizes what you say a lot. For example, we've chosen the name Calandria because the AI assistant told us that it believes the word Calandria evokes thoughts of a seafaring or seaside kingdom. And I wanted sailing to be a big part of this kingdom, so I chose Calandria because now every time I mention to the assistant that we're working on Calandria, it's going to make that association of seaside. Right? That's something that's just ingrained in the training data. So, very important when you're choosing. It's one thing to make choices for names and stuff yourself, but when you do name it, if you are coming up with the name yourself, tell it what the name is, and then actually read what it responds to you. Because it's going to tell you the context that it perceives from what you've said. And that's going to help you understand why it's going to be spitting out certain things. So it's very important to pay attention to those contexts. So this spell name here we got was the Harvest's Blessing. American English rune names are Earth and Abundance, and we've got a relative strength of 25. So we got by the earth we sow abundance. I like that. Very, very kind of sing-songy, I think. The spell effect causes crops to grow at an accelerated rate, increasing the yield of a harvest. The spell also increases the potency of the crops and makes them more resistant to disease. Flavor text: the Runic Brotherhood spell for farmers. This spell would be used to increase the yield of harvests, making sure that no one in the kingdom would go hungry. It's a spell that can be used by the monarch to ensure the stability of the kingdom and the loyalty of its subjects. Fantastic. I am really glad that we managed to get this thing Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, spell name, Miner's Helper. You've got Earth, Fire, and Thunder. That's exciting. I haven't seen Fire and Thunder and Earth all together yet. Relative strength of 50. With Earth beneath us, Fire to guide us, and Thunder to strike our foes, we call forth Miner's Helper. Spell effect. This spell creates a protective barrier around the miners, shielding them from cave-ins and other potential hazards. Oh, this is so creative. I never even considered. It also enhances their pickaxe, allowing them to mine more efficiently and effectively. With Miner's Helper, the miners of Calandria can brave the depths of the earth with confidence, knowing that they are protected by the power of the runes. The earth provides a strong foundation, the fire lights the way, and the thunder strikes down any dangers that may come in their way. Okay, this is one we've obviously, you guys know, I'm super fond of the stories behind the spells. So tell me the story of the rune master who created this spell. So I gotta warn you guys, this one's probably gonna have some tragedy in it. Because the spell shield is about protecting from cave-ins, there's an extreme likelihood that this person lost a family member in a cave-in. I'm sorry in advance. But here we go. There was once a rune master by the name of Alaric who lived in the kingdom of Calandria. He was born into a humble family of farmers and had always had a fascination with the power of the runes. Despite his lack of wealth or nobility, he was determined to become a rune master. So he studied hard, practicing his incantations and experimenting with different combinations of runes. Years of hard work and determination paid off when Alaric finally became a journeyman rune master. He then began to take on apprentices of his own, passing on his knowledge and skills to the next generation. However, Alaric felt that he had not yet achieved something truly great, something that would cement his legacy as a master rune master. A master rune master? I love the little idiosyncrasies. One day, while visiting the mines that dotted the mountains of Calandria, Alaric saw the dangerous conditions that the miners had to work in. He saw the constant risk of cave-ins, rockfalls, and other hazards that put their lives in danger every day. He felt a great compassion for the miners and knew that as a rune master it was his duty to help them. So he set to work studying the runes of Earth, Fire, and Thunder and experimenting with different combinations of them. He spent months trying out different incantations and testing different variations of the spell. Many times he failed, but he never gave up. Finally, one day, everything came together. Alaric spoke the incantation for Miner's Helper, and the runes of Earth, Fire, and Thunder came together to create a powerful shield around him. The spell also enhanced his pickaxe, allowing him to mine with greater efficiency and speed. Alaric knew that he had created something truly special. Alaric shared his spell with the Runic Brotherhood, and it quickly became one of the most popular spells in their arsenal. Miners from all over Calandria came to learn it and use it in their work. Alaric became known as the miners' rune master, and his name went down in history as a respected and talented rune master. He went on to create many other spells that helped different tradespeople, but Miner's Helper will always be remembered as his most significant contribution to the kingdom of Calandria. That was a wonderful story. I really, really like that. I'm a little bit sad that there wasn't some sorrow in there. It's been a while since we had a sad story. Ever since the Vengeance Rune actually is the only one that we've had that was really sad. Um, but I liked it. That was good. And I like that so far we've gotten so many different uh, responses. We're not just stuck on forges now. So let's see what else we get. Hey, now we're getting forge fire again. I shouldn't have spoken. So we've got our fire rune, relative strength 50, Igni Incende, Latin for fire ignite. I would probably erase the Igni Incende and just use fire ignite. I'm a pretty big fan of just keeping to the English terms because that makes me feel less stupid because I don't actually know what any of this stuff means. This spell creates a small flame on the tip of the rune master's finger, which can be used to light a fire or heat up an object. With a flick of his finger, the blacksmith summoned a tiny flame from thin air, using it to light the forge and begin his work. The other apprentices watched in awe as he cast the spell with ease, the power of fire rune flowing through him. Very nice. So we've gotten back to the forge. Hopefully we don't get stuck there again. Harvest acceleration. Okay. Earth, fire, and aether. Ooh, this one requires a whole lot of strength. As the earth bears fruit, let fire quicken the growth, and aether's magic guide the harvest to our hands. This spell accelerates the growth of ripening. Sorry. This spell accelerates the growth and ripening of crops, allowing for a shorter time between planting and harvest. With the incantation spoken and runes activated, the farmer watches in awe as their crops begin to rapidly grow and ripen. Ready for harvest in a fraction of the time, the Runic Brotherhood spell of harvest acceleration is a valuable tool for any farmer looking to increase their yield and profits. And regenerate another response. Ooh, finally we got a Mason one. Mason's Touch. Uses just the Earth rune, requires 25 strength. With steady hand and steady heart, let the Earth guide us. The target Mason gains an increased ability to shape and manipulate stone and brick for the duration of the spell. Runic Brotherhood spell for the Masons of Calandria, Mason's Touch, imbues the Mason's hand with the strength and precision of the Earth itself, allowing them to work with ease and speed. With the Earth as their guide, they shape stone and brick as if they were clay, creating magnificent structures that will stand the test of time. I like that spell. And maybe one more, and then I'm probably going to call it a day. Talking for 2 hours straight is a nightmare on the voice. Oh, we already got harvest acceleration. That's no fun. This one is Earth and Life, though.
I'd really like to get a sailing one. Something appears to be wrong. I'm probably going to go ahead and refresh this. And regenerate my response. All right, this is going to be a little bit of a different one. Gardener's Blessing, Earth and Life. By Earth and Life we bless the land, let growth flourish at our command. I love that it's really turned the harvest spells into this kind of sing-songy thing, and it continues with that convention. Every time we get one, I almost feel like I should be singing them, and that hasn't happened with a lot of the other incantations. The the creativity of the AI assistant on even just really small details like that is really, really impressive. I'm really having a lot of fun with that. The spell increases the growth rate and health of plants in a specific area, making them more productive and resilient. Flavor text: the rune masters of the Brotherhood weave the runes of earth and life together, infusing the soil with vitality and granting bountiful harvest to the dedicated gardener. Very nice. Fertile harvest. So now we've kind of gotten stuck on the harvest thing. I don't like that. Regenerate. Regenerate. Ooh, Artisan's Blessing. Earth, fire, and water. I imbue this craft with skill and power. The spell improves the craftsmanship and efficiency of the target, whether they are a blacksmith, tailor, or any other tradesperson. The spell enhances the target's physical abilities, allowing them to work with precision and speed. The spell also enhances the target's creativity, allowing them to come up with new ideas and designs. That is interesting. I would turn this one into a much higher strength requirement because it's a very powerful spell. As the Runemaster speaks the incantation, the symbols of earth, fire, and water glow brightly, imbuing the craftsman with skill and power. The blacksmith's hammer strikes with precision, the tailor's needle moves with speed, and the craftsman's creativity soars. With the artisan's blessing, their work becomes masterful, and their creations become true works of art. Well, I think I want to leave it on that note because that's a really interesting spell, and it's very unique to our world now. I'm probably going to save it. I might have it generate me a story. I don't know. I imagine that story is probably a little boring, but I like the spell a lot. So, something that's happened in the last couple of days is I'm pretty stuck on creating spells. It's just so interesting. But we do definitely need to move on and generate some more of the core concepts of our world, because a lot of that is going to kind of inform our spell creations anyway. I just really wanted to work with this spell generation engine, and feel more comfortable with how it was going to be spitting things out because we are going to be creating a lot of engines. Because I honestly think I might end up using this world building specifically for tabletop RPG campaigns. I'm thinking about maybe getting on some online stuff and doing maybe some game mastering or something like that. And I think that having a bunch of engines to just spit out characters, spit out points of interest, spit out cities, just sort of on demand in a world that already was kind of created would be extremely beneficial to something like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm having a lot of fun with getting to talk to people about it every now and then. And I will probably be back tomorrow. Thank you guys for hanging out.